Okay, let's go to work.
Hi,
Hi, I'm Dan,
I'm Janie.
and we are Achieve the Lifestyle.
Yep.
Today, we are going to talk about sleep
Mm-hmm.
and why you should probably care more about sleep than you do right now.
Right. And so I think that in today's society, we've really lost the importance of sleep. And I'm pretty sure we're the only mammals or animals who postpone sleep.
Yeah.
Or deprive ourselves of sleep, right? And so we've just been hitting a lot on the importance of recovery with Achieve the Lifestyle, and sleep is a huge component of that. So today we wanted to take some time to talk about that. And there's also a lot of new research coming out about sleep. The fact that CNS fluid sort of gets into our brain and our brain can move things around and it clears out toxins from our brain. That's a very crude explanation of that.
Sounds like spinal fluid.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's wild.
Did I say your CNS comes
Yeah,
up?
you said CNS fluid. Yeah, it's like
CNS,
spinal
fluid. Cerebral spinal fluid. Yeah,
and it
CSF,
clears toxins out of the brain.
Clear toxins out of the brain. Yeah, and so very crude explanation of it, but so we're finding out more and more the importance of sleep. And so we understand fully that a lot of our work schedules and life works against getting the recommended amount of sleep. But today we just wanted to talk about the importance of it. Hopefully we inspire some motivation for you to prioritize it. And then we're going to talk about our own struggles with how we prioritize sleep. Because we know it's not easy and it's a work in progress.
I think the idea here is to walk away with a mindset of like, I'm going to do whatever it takes, or I'm going to put a lot of effort into improving my sleep situation. Nutrition is probably one of those areas that requires that same amount of effort. So if you dial in sleep and nutrition really well, you're probably halfway there to achieving that better state of health that we always talk about. And notice that I use the word achieve.
Yeah.
Because that's who we are.
And what we talk about today is not medical advice. So just want to make that disclaimer. So we encourage you to talk to your medical provider or someone you trust about ways to optimize your sleep if you want to include supplementation or how much sleep you should be getting, or if you have any concerns that you need to have a sleep study. Would encourage you to talk to somebody about that.
So I think we're going to talk about it in a way that we like personal experience, like what we did to improve sleep in certain regards, what we struggle with, and then you can take that as a point of, oh, there's an idea, maybe I should discuss this with someone that handles medical stuff for me right now, or that sort of thing. I think we should talk about the first thing about sleep that I think about as a trainer is recovery, like you mentioned, but it's recovering from workouts and strenuous physical activity. If you're looking to lose weight, or you're looking to put on muscle, or you're looking to improve performance in some way, shape, or form, sleep is a crucial part of it, because the adaptations that you seek from training happen when you recover. They don't happen in a constant state of stress. So you stress your body with training, bring it down, the body adapts by giving you certain, powers, if you will, to respond to that stress. And then that happens, you recover from that stress, boom, you have your adaptations. So you got to sleep for that. You got to recover, and sleep is a big part of that. That's where I take it as well.
Right. Yeah, so I just like to take a step back and the recommended amount of sleep, like how much sleep should we be getting. And on average, and again, it's an average, they say 7.5 to 8 hours of sleep a night. That's what studies have been showing, that if you put somebody in, a light deprived room, give them 12 hours, they'll eventually start waking up at around 8 hours after they become accustomed and caught up on their sleep, because we're all probably sleep deprived to some capacity. But anyway, there's a huge list of pros of getting an adequate amount of sleep. So Dan mentioned recovery. It also has to do with your cognitive ability, right? I'm sure all of us have pulled an all-nighter, right? In college or at some point, or for work or something. You don't think as clearly, right? And I'm sure you've seen that in the military. If you don't get enough sleep, so aren't you more predisposed to having hallucinations, and making mistakes, things like that?
Hallucinated aplenty.
Yeah.
Myself. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and there's also that thing that that ratio of hours missed of sleep is equal to this many drinks or whatever, the level of drowsiness that you incur when you miss this much sleep is equal to the level of drowsiness that you would be if you were drinking alcohol or if you were under the influence of a substance. Right. So there's that as well. So essentially when you're underslept and tired as hell, you are essentially drunk, right, if you will. Yeah. So driving to work becomes more dangerous. You know, your response time to things becomes impaired, that sort of thing as well.
Also, sleep can greatly influence your mood, right? So help with depression, anxiety, stress, feelings of being overwhelmed.
Feelings of anxiety, if you're underslept, are more common.
Yeah, and this is tricky though, because usually issues with your mood and sleep are bi-directional, so they influence each other. You sleep like shit, your mood's like shit. Well, if your mood's like shit or your anxiety's heightened, that can affect how much you sleep, right? So we get into this pattern of both are affecting each other in a negative way.
Yeah.
And so it's important to sort of prioritize your sleep and try to stay ahead of that to help instill a healthy mood throughout the day.
And then hormonal balance as well. Like a lot of hormones are suppressed
so
if you're underslept. So you have, cortisol's elevated. That's your stress hormone if you are underslept, and things like testosterone start tanking, thyroid function, etc. if you are chronically underslept, which is not going to lead anywhere good.
And because
hunger hormones.
Because I was gonna say weight is a big topic right now, weight loss. So if you're underslept, you're more likely to want more food during the day. So it dysregulates your hunger cues, your satiety cues, things like that. So
observational, now talking more like things that I notice when I've underslept. Definitely, like my mood is not as bright, so I could be like, oh, I don't know if I want to be here today. That sort of thought process starts.
Be here in what sense? You need to like be at work?
Yeah, like be at work. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
Be like, I don't know if I want to do this. I like that sort of thought process creeps in faster than if I have a good night of sleep. I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta do some work. I'm okay with that. Versus, oh, I don't feel like doing this. That sort of thing. Another one that I've noticed, and now that I'm getting older, not older, is like general tightness and function of the body.
Yeah, so I would say inflammation.
Yeah, so inflammation's up. So when I the joints can get a little achy, like hit the bottom of a squat, I feel like I'm creaking down there versus just squatting and feeling nice and limber and loose and capable. Things are tightened up, that's your nervous system does when you're under stress.
And or just puffy in general.
Yep, you feel more puffy. Another one that I noticed is like, it's like a little chub, and then when you get a good sleep, then you look more, your muscles are more defined, you look leaner when you're consistently, you are actually, because there's a lot of things that happen while you're sleeping, but I feel leaner and can see, more and more vascular, that sort of thing when I get good sleep, versus when I don't, I feel like I'm just like holding on to a little bit of weight, which is inflammation in general.
And then headaches. Inflammation, headaches. If you're sleep deprived, you're more likely to get headaches. Or if you do have a history of migraines or other headaches, not getting enough sleep can trigger those. So.
Yeah, so there's a lot there. Yeah. All of that to say that you're not gonna get by without sleep.
Right, and I would be hard pressed to find something that getting insufficient sleep doesn't touch in your body, right? Whether it's a function. Or a disease process or something, getting inadequate sleep will bleed over into affecting that.
Yeah.
Can elevate blood sugars, can elevate blood pressure, can, a cascade of events cause, more stress, can put you at increased cardiac risk, or just the stress of your body not getting enough sleep. So sleep apnea and heart disease, very related. So
weight gain too. People
and weight gain.
Tend to start gaining weight.
Yeah.
And there's like, seeing people that with fitness and things like that, that they have a certain a challenge getting over a certain hump in body composition and stuff. Usually they have a sleep issue, a sleep nutrition issue. Like, oh, I'm eating too much of this stuff, not enough of this, or you're not getting enough sleep, or if they're going to bed for a certain amount of time, but they're not actually sleeping that amount of time, which is something that matters as well. It's not just about being in bed 8 hours, it's about sleeping the hours that you're in bed.
So how would one try to get good sleep? Like, what are some general...
So first you got to figure out what keeps you from getting good sleep, I guess, would be my start.
Yeah, so with my patients, I approach it like, do you have troubles falling asleep or staying asleep, right? Or some people don't have trouble with either. They're just like, I don't have enough hours, right? There's just not enough time in the day for me to get to sleep at an appropriate time. I have no problem falling asleep and staying asleep, but I just wish I could have more, right? And so I think it's looking at you yourself. What's your barrier, right?
Yeah, what's the obstacle?
But I think if we're just blank slating it, I think like I would recommend is, knowing that you need to get 8 hours ish. What time do you have to wake up and work back, right? So if I wake up at 6 a.m., I need to go to bed by 10 p.m. So I need to be asleep by 10 p.m. to get 8 hours. So then what do I need to do to get into bed by 10 p.m.? So then starting to think about that. Studies are showing that having the same bedtime every day, within plus or minus 30 minutes, right? Leads to more regulated sleep and more efficient sleep, and then the same wake time as well. Again, plus or minus 30 minutes or an hour. So I think that's something to plan for. We're not, going out drinking, staying up until 2 a.m., sleeping till noon anymore, So, and that probably didn't serve us very well looking back at it now. And so, so we can talk more about like bedtime routines and stuff like that, and more from like our personal routines with that and what we've observed works for us or what we've heard recommended. But I want to take some time, and you may know this better than me, things you can do during the day to help reinforce a good night's sleep. So like, why exercise? Why eat? How does that influence our sleep?
Yeah, usually, let's backtrack a little bit, because I think we should go with things that we know are going to fuck up your sleep, independent, regardless of who you are.
Okay.
So, like blue light. What is blue? All these screens, like if you're on a screen like this, and then you're going to try to fall asleep, that's going to mess up your sleep.
Yeah, and some people, like I have some patients who say, well, I fall asleep watching TV. Okay, but your sleep's not going to be as efficient because that blue light has stimulated part of your brain. So yeah, you're falling asleep, but the brain's more active than it needs to be, and it's not in that rested recovery state.
And we're talking here about circadian rhythm and things like that, where your body's designed when it's nighttime, you're looking for a darker environment because that's gonna let the brain power down enough to get you into the sleep waves or the sleep that you're gonna need to actually recover and repair stuff while you're in it. That's another one. Impaired healing, if you're not getting
your immune system.
Yeah. Impaired immune system's compromised, but also let's say you have a cut in your hand or something like that, you're not healing the same.
Which is your immune system.
Girl, stop. If you're chronically underslept, but things like that. So anyway, blue light will mess up your sleep. Alcohol will mess up your sleep. Guaranteed. People are like, oh, but it makes you fall asleep faster. And then you wake up in the middle of the night and can't toss it and turn it.
I can't remember, and I just heard this, but for some reason I'm not recalling it right now. Like, yes, you pass out from alcohol, but I think it inhibits REM sleep, or it inhibits something to where you're not getting sufficient sleep even though you're asleep. Well,
and you essentially did just that. You passed out.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, my body's powering down and I'm falling asleep. Yeah. No, you passed out.
Right. Insufficient caloric intake.
That's a big one, and that's one that we see a lot.
Yeah. So, the 1,200 calorie diet is just an example, but if you're eating at a deficit, like, we understand how thermodynamics work. Decrease calories in, more calories out. so that you lose weight. But if that is too drastic for your activity level and you're eating under, that sends a signal to the brain, oh shit, we're hungry, we need food, be on guard, go hunt, do something, let's go. So your brain is active.
So
can't sleep.
Basically, and beyond that, your body starts shutting functions down when it's in a stress of in a state of high stress, and start regulating hormones and doing things like that. And that's one of them. Sleep is compromised. It starts compromising your ability to recover from things. It starts compromising your immune system, et cetera, et cetera. If you're in a huge caloric deficit, way more than you need to, that where you're eating below your basal metabolic rate even, which is very common, unfortunately. People that, I need to lose weight, so I'm going to skip dinner, I'm going to skip lunch, I'm just going to eat one meal a day, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to compound that with the stress of your kids and the stress of commuting to work and the stress of life in general. Now you're in a chronically stressed state. Now your sleep is going to suffer. And I've seen that one a lot.
Yeah.
Where it's like, hey, what are you eating? And then it's like, oh, I only have this one meal. Like, no wonder you go to bed you say you go to bed for 10 hours, but you slept 5 because you're tossing and turning every night.
Yeah.
That's one of them. Definitely we brought that one up because that happens a lot.
Not getting natural light or sunlight during the day.
Yes, and now we're talking circadian rhythm stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I've been playing around with this because I've struggled with sleep for a couple of years. Same way blue light can keep the brain going, fool it into thinking that it's out in the sun. If you're not exposed to natural light during the day, and it's all artificial lights, it keeps your brain going as well. So you need sunlight exposure during the day to reset that circadian rhythm of, I slept in the dark, I come out, it's the sun, I power up in the day, and then when it's at night, I turn lights off and it's dark again, and then I'm powering down. Yep.
And so this is known, like in the hospital, if you've ever known anyone who's been in the hospital, specifically the ICU, in addition to everything else that's going on, just the lack of natural light, that light dark sort of routine, that you can get ICU-induced delusions, psychosis, things like that, because the brain needs that schedule, right? That's how it works. Things in our body all are on a clock, and so we need to help reinforce that.
Yeah.
And not deprive ourselves of that.
Yeah, so now ways around that. We just gave you obstacles, things that could affect your sleep.
Oh, I think there's more.
There's more.
I think there's more.
Yeah.
And so, not outletting stress, so not exercising, right? So being sedentary can also affect your sleep.
Not expending energy. Also, food. Certain people have reactions to food, like if they eat too close to their bedtime, it keeps them up. Other people eat close to their bedtime and it helps them fall asleep. That's
so it's a little trial and error you have to do.
That's something to consider there, that you got to see how that affects you. The quality of your food too.
Yep.
You're eating some bullshit.
But I think of lack of regular physical activity, especially if you are under high stress throughout the day. So exercise is a great stress outlet, right? And I was talking with one of my friends, we were just joking around, and it's like, lift really fucking heavy weights, like do a 1 rep max back squat or something like that, and tell me you don't sleep well that night. So it's just a joke. It's just like a candid thing.
But there's like not having exercise, but then by the same token, I got to give you the other side of the coin, which is having too much exercise.
Yep, understood.
And if you're doing, I train 7 days a week, bro, 3 workouts a day, boom, let's go, high intensity, everything. That's what I do, son. If you're doing that, you're also going to compromise your sleep, because now, again, we talk about that stress cup. It's too much, and the body's going to start taking away from other places. That's going to fuck your sleep up.
Right. Yeah.
So there's that.
Yeah.
Things, unhandled business, like that feeling of anxiety.
So this is like things on your mind, like worries, things like that. So this is where the whole thing of journaling, writing a list can be helpful. I did, I think Dr. Parsley on the Power Athlete said, make a list, put a line down the middle, to do, to worry. So you can write down things you have to do, write down things you need to worry about, so it gets off your brain, because it's going to be there tomorrow morning.
Yep. So like a brain dump type of thing could help if you're somebody who goes to bed and starts ruminating on things.
Yeah.
While you should be worrying about falling asleep.
Right. So we identified like barriers or things that can affect good sleep potentially. And so so how do you get good sleep, right? And so in a perfect world, it would be, okay, 2 to 3 hours before your bedtime that you've determined, you start like shutting down lights, turning off screens, making things cool, like temperature wise. And then things are slow, you're wind down, there's no stimulus, and then you work to go to bed. That's not usually practical with most people because you're working. If you have a family, you're taking care of them. Also, we just mentioned exercise, you got to get exercise. We just mentioned food, so you have to get make dinner, clean up, all these things, not to mention I'm sure other things that are going on. And so obviously this is very personalized, right? And so I think we should just talk about like what we do and maybe some generalized recommendations.
Yeah. So,
and then again, this is not medical advice. This is not something you should do. We're just going to share what we do to see if it gets your mind going on, I can do that, or no, I can't do that, but I can do that and try to get better sleep.
Strategy wise, like clients of mine that are like, high up tempo people, they own businesses or directors of whatever company, I usually tell them to put as much distance as they can between work and the bed. So like, hey, if you're going right now, you're going to bed with the phone in your hand replying to a fucking email, and then you're trying to put it down and fall asleep, that's not going to work long term. So put as much distance as you can between the last email that you replied to or the last piece of business that you handle on a screen and bedtime. You're like, hey, I'm going to stop 30 minutes before I actually want to be in bed today. Right now it's 0. I'm going to make it 15. Then I'm going to make it 30, etc. And work that way, work backwards that way. That's a good strategy. All blue blockers, a must.
Yep.
Learning to take the color off your screen, a must. Like, we do here, we put the phones in a red screen so the colors are not shining through, so it limits the amount of blue light that screen is giving you.
And we have blue blockers that we try to put on like a couple hours before we're gonna go to bed. Some days we forget.
Yeah, if you're like if you got any screen going, you should probably have a blue blocker. Or you should probably have, that color filter on to lower the amount of blue light that's hitting you. Recommendation. You might, every little bit counts. If it's 1% in your favor, take it.
Yep.
What else? Food.
Yeah. So I find that, because I work out in the evenings right now. So I find that if I replenish carbohydrates after I eat and before bed, I sleep better than if I were to do a low carb before bed. And again, that's person specific, so that's just something you're gonna need to
that's trial and error,
right? But I kind of like having that feeling of some carbs in my belly before going to bed, but not enough to replenish what I had just done for working out, not extra amount, because then that could lead to storing. What else? Food. We've been playing around with eating some foods that have been shown to help with sleep. So things like kiwis.
Yeah, kiwis supposedly stimulate serotonin production. So we've been playing around with eating kiwis at night.
Yeah.
Yes.
We also
magnesium.
Yeah. So supplement wise, we do magnesium. But I just want to be careful because that's just something you need to talk to a healthcare professional about supplementing vitamins, or do your own research on that. But we look at what are some things that can help us optimize our sleep. We take our showers in the evening, so sometimes a warm shower can be restful. Some people find that stimulating, so it's just, again, trial and error. We drop the temperature in the house. We should probably do it a little bit sooner, I think.
Yeah, research, it's 68 degrees, supposedly. That your body, polar bear. That's what I want. I want it nice and cold so I can get under the blanket like this and be like, it feels so good. But 68 degrees is supposedly the temperature that's ideal for sleep.
Yeah. So again, play with that on how you like it. put things darker. So we do have screens on in the evening. You know, we watch like maybe 20 minutes of TV in the evening, so that's why we have the blue blockers on. But we don't put a lot of lights on, so we try to keep it relatively dark in here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What else are we doing right now? What else are we working on?
No
Supplement
phones
wise?
in our face in the bed. We, plug in our phones away from the bed.
Yeah, we don't do TV in bed either.
Yeah, no TV
That's
in the
another
bedroom.
one.
Nope.
That's another one they talk
Sleep
about.
and sex only.
Yeah, that's another one they talk about, not having a TV in your bedroom, period.
Yeah.
And not getting into this habit of doing stuff in bed.
Right.
Whereas like, I'm gonna do my work from bed.
No.
Or I'm gonna watch TV from bed. That creates a little bit of a bad habit. So definitely, you want the association with being in bed to be of sleep.
Right.
So yeah, a little light reading once in bed, and that's done.
Yeah,
Cool.
some reading. Try not to read anything too stimulating, because then that can just keep you up. Or I've gotten in trouble with that, where I was reading a book and I'm like, oh my god, I need to know what's going on, and the next thing you know, it's 11 o'clock. I'm like, shit. So yeah, and then
It's also valuing routine, like kind of
Yeah.
having the same steps, because you condition yourself to be like, okay, I'm going.
we're
to
doing
bed.
this. I start to feel
You
tired,
start to feel
drowsy.
tired. So exactly, there's a lot of value in that. I think that's underrated. Like, yeah, I'm gonna write my little journal entry.
Yeah.
I have my blue blockers on. I put the phone down. I picked up this book that I'm reading that's kind of all right. And you're telling, I'm turning the lights off. So in going through that routine, it'll make you feel tired because your body's associating that with it's bedtime.
Yeah, I always tell people, kind of throw it back to when you were a kid, or if you have kids, you had a bedtime routine. Your kids have a bedtime routine. That doesn't need to stop when you're an adult. Have a bedtime routine. Make it a ritual, because sleep is so important. Let's get ready for it. And that sounded really cheesy. I understand that, but
Yeah. Well, all of that to say that this is one of those areas that you should probably spend a lot of, when we talk about getting healthy and understanding that it's a long-term process, and it requires a lot of knobs have to be turned to find the right combination for you of exercise, sleep, nutrition, recovery, outside time, all this stuff that helps you get to where you want to go with your health. Understand that sleep is definitely one of those times where you want to take a little bit extra time to figure that one out.
Yep. And we understand that maybe 8 hours, if you have, work, gym, kids, all that. But if you can, modify a routine where you get 10 minutes more, 20 minutes more, like Dan said earlier, if it works out 1% more in your favor, take it, do it. You're like, okay, if I don't sit on my phone scrolling for 30 minutes, I can be asleep that amount of time, go to bed, so
Yep.
It's just reviewing your habits, which, I'm not saying we're perfect, and sometimes, we'll get into a good habit of sleep and then I'll work my way out and I need to work back into it. So it's every once in a while just taking pause and being like, okay, what am I doing? Is this, helping me get adequate sleep? Let me shift so I can, because sleep is very truly important. And we're finding out more and more and more with current research about really how much of importance it is.
Yeah. So whether it's weight loss, whether it's performance, or whether it's muscle gain, strength gain, anything
Management
positive,
of diseases, management of inflammation.
anything positive that you want your body to do, it ain't happening without sleep, Jack.
Yeah.
It's not happening.
And if you do feel like, I do this, but I never feel refreshed, I always feel tired, I do encourage you to talk to your healthcare professional about it. A lot of healthcare professionals, and I used to be like this, don't like to talk about sleep, because I'm like, I don't fucking know. But now I've educated myself a little bit more on it, and when people come in and they like, I can't sleep, all right, there's so much we can talk about. There's so many things we can address to help influence the sleep. But if you're doing these things and you're like, I still don't feel refreshed, it's not working, talk to your healthcare provider. Sleep studies can be valuable information, and you might uncover something that can further help you sleep.
Yep.
Yep.
So get to sleep.
Yep.
And that's it for today, guys.
Yeah, tell them where they can find us.
You can find us at Achieve the Lifestyle on the IGs.
Instagram.
The Instagrams, it's right there. And I'm Coach Dan Brown at Instagram.
And I'm S. Jean Brown at Instagram, on Instagram. I mean, you're not doing your link in the bio.
No, because this is for YouTube. That's for Instagram.
Oh, my bad.
See you next time, guys.
I thought that was good. How we kind of, I think we should have a timeline in the future.
Sure.
You don't like it?
It's fine.